to conduct in the coming days, which will be like online for all the students who do not have access to us. It's our code that if you cannot come to us, we'll come to you in your own laptop or in your own mobile phone. And this session is called as Intro to Law Entrance and Legal Aptitude. Specifically legal aptitude because that is one subject which most of the students find a problem in. But I would say that is not a subject which you should have a problem in. It requires a few knacks and all which we are going to discuss today. We're going to discuss the basic outline of what is required by a student to understand legal reasoning, rather legal aptitude, how we call it. Legal aptitude is further into legal knowledge and aptitude reasoning. So the first thing which we'll discuss here in this session would be about what exactly is law entrance, in what ways the law entrance process is conducted, what is the psyche of the examiner, and all those basic things which I presume a student who is appearing for CLAT or who has a vision to appear for CLAT or any examination which is law entrance should have. You have to know these specific things. So let's go one by one. Psyche of the examiner and all those basic things which I presume a student who is appearing for CLAT or who has a vision to appear for CLAT or any examination which is law entrance should have. You have to know these specific things. So let's go one by one. The first here is examination to build out lawful habits. We have problems find us. And the first question usually which we ask them is why. So my friend is doing it. Some say that the buildings are very good. Some say the infrastructure of law schools are excellent, etc., etc. So that is exactly what the answer nowadays is coming. Initially, there was a time when you used to ask students, and they were like, "I want to do law just because I want to become a corporate lawyer or something, etc., etc." Now, blame it on the surge of students. All of a sudden, many students have started appearing for CLAT, and they think that to appear for CLAT, we have a good career and all. But believe me, the purpose of conducting CLAT by the National Law School is that they want to filter out students, as in law students, from aspirants. Because why do you aspire so? If you have something in your mind, are you someone who knows that which law school are you headed to? Why that particular law school? What is the stream that is in your mind? What is the kind of a lifestyle that law students live? What are the qualities which are required for a law student, etc., etc. Now, basically, they want to have students like those. They don't want to have students who just do it just because someone else is doing it. Now, how would they filter this particular thing out? That could be a good question. That is where our parameter number B comes in. It says examination to scan student caliber on set parameters. Now, what all are these set parameters? Believe me, each subject in CLAT is a set parameter. A set parameter is being given because the student who will appear in CLAT thinks that the subjects which are there like English, mathematics, legal reasoning, general studies are just because they wanted to conduct a test. But believe me, that is not exactly how the story is. The story is a bit different. If we say English, that one subject is going to test a lot of things about you. For example, reading comprehension. Now, what is the law school going to test specific when it comes to reading comprehension? It's very simple. When it comes to reading comprehension, you're given a certain para and you have to comprehend things out of it. In the law school, there are in the first year itself, student of torts is going to come down. A professor of torts is going to come down. The moment he comes down, he'll explain your entire premise and everything. And then what he's going to do is, he's going to give you, say, 7 case laws. And he's going to explain it to you also. And then he expects that you should go ahead into the library and read all those 7 case laws. You're very happy. You're like, case laws are something which I really like. When you go to the library and when you pick up one case law, that one case law is around 700 to 1,000 pages long. And the moment you see it, you think, oof, what are you going to do? Now, in CLAT, when the reading comprehension question comes, if you are a good law if you are a good law aspirant, as we say, you just see it and you understand. You read the entire. What you do is when the student goes, he goes through the entire case, which is like 700 to 1000 pages long. He won't go through the entire thing. He knows where the ratio decidendi is. He knows where the where the obiter dicta is given. Now, what he would do is he would slowly read only those important things which are there. He will never read something which is not important. You getting it? Now, that is one of those skills which they are testing through reading comprehension. Because in a simple para, they're going to test out those things. If you remember the NUJ's paper, when NUJ's conducted that examination, they had 4 reading comprehensions. And believe me, there were so many students who cracked it, and this year, many of them passed out. Many of them graduated. And you won't believe it, most of the law schools from where this batch has passed out has best of the best placements, just because that the paper which was conducted by NUJs if you ask us, was the best CLAT ever conducted, because the kind of legal reasoning or the kind of reading comprehension, etc., which came, it tested those caliber which is very, very important for a student of law. Now, each subject has a set philosophy, its own purpose, as we said. Yes, each subject you see will have its own purpose behind it. I've already told you about English. Now, if you say in English itself, if you're looking at vocabulary, believe me, in vocabulary, it is very, very important for you, if you are into a law school, to have a very good vocabulary. Because when you speak, see, it's in law school, it's all about speaking. It's all about how you how you perform, how you give presentations, how you perform in moot courts, how you go ahead and do, etc. Things like these things. Now, simple reasoning. Okay, I can see many people shooting a question to me about specific questions. Just chill. What we're going to do is, at the end of the session, we have specifically 20 minutes to half an hour where I'm going to ask, where you can ask me questions and I'll answer. So let me finish first. This is an online platform, so this is not a live classroom. There are certain adjustments which we have to do. So what you have to do is you have to just wait, and I'll answer every question of yours. Don't worry. Okay? No, you need not be sorry. I did not say it at the first, so I am sorry. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and complete this session. Now, as I said, each subject has a philosophy. For example, mathematics. What is the philosophy of mathematics? Many of the students ignore mathematics. They are like, we hate maths, we are not going for those 20 marks. But believe me, students, if you are going to ignore those 20 marks, something which has a problem is going to crop up, is that your ranking is going to matter. Because a student who wants to go for Bangalore can only go for Bangalore if he also considers mathematics. A student who goes to Nalsar just because he also concentrates on mathematics. The rest of the students who ignore mathematics will end up somewhere in, say, down there in NLD Jodhpur and further below, because students who prepare everything shall have a better chance of cracking the examination. Now, why mathematics is there in CLAT is a big question which most of the students ask. Now, guys, when you become a lawyer, how is maths going to be very important to you? Obviously, maths helps you in, you might be earning in crores, so you should have an idea about how these crores are coming and how much have you to take from a person. But more than that, professionally, it's going to help you a lot. For example, if you are a lawyer and you're a corporate lawyer and one of your client, his case is pending before the court and the case is worth 7 crore rupees, Now, the 7 crore rupee case goes on for, say, 7 years. You fight it for 7 years, and after 7 years, you are able to get him 7 crore rupees. So my question is, are you a good lawyer? You're not a good lawyer because you just got him 7 crore rupees. That's it. What about the interest throughout these 7 years? You have to calculate it. It is not the client who is going to calculate it. You cannot ask the judge to calculate it. Getting it? So such kind of simple calculations, at least you have to know. Time, distance, and speed. Lawyers are mini Sherlock Holmes, mini James Bond. We ought to have a very good idea about what moves in the society. And similarly, if there's a murder case or if there is something which has happened, these calculations help us a lot. So out of the 20 questions, if a student is able to score anything between an 8 or a 12, CLAT sees it as a good score. You getting it? So that's the philosophy. Each subject has a philosophy about it. Logical reasoning, it tests you what kind of a argumentative power do you have? What kind of a student are you? Are you a kind of a student who would read things and just decipher whatever is written out? Or you would try to find logic out of it? Are you a kind of student who will just look at it and say, ki, yaar, you will critically analyze it? Now you understand why critical reasoning is there? And only then you will have your own opinion and you would try to find logic in your own opinion. You getting it? And that is why logical reasoning is there. Each subject, my dear students, has a psyche behind it. Legal reasoning, the psyche behind it, that is something which we're going to discuss today, and that is something which you have to be very clear about today, because that is something you have to follow. Now, the number of is given to you also have anything. Believe me, it is not a 2-hour paper. Even 2-hour paper. It's a half-hour paper or at times a 3-hour paper. But yes, that is what you call as decision making, which is very, very important. Because when you are appearing for a test, there are certain things which you have to leave. There are certain things which you have to get. That is what you call as decisive decision making. Very important in a lawyer's life. If you want to understand it vis-a-vis cricket, I can even explain it. I can explain it like something this. For example, have you seen Virat Kohli, the manner in which he bats? You all are like big fans of Virat Kohli. Have you seen? There are certain balls, even in a 2020, which he leaves. Why? Because the moment he leaves it, he understands it that, I need not hit it, because this is not exactly the ball on which I have to hook, or which, I have to place this kind of a shot. And that is what you call as decisive decision making. If in the paper there is a question, say puzzles in logical reasoning, which seems very difficult for us to solve, you should leave it. You should not be a person who goes ahead and solves it and wastes his precious 15 minutes. This has happened last year in CLAT. This has happened even before it also. Because the moment students start appearing in those questions, there could be other students who would say, no, this is a time-consuming, this is a time-consuming question, and this will only award me 1 question, 1 marks. On the other hand, I have legal reasoning, I have general studies questions which can award me like great marks. So why should I waste my time here? You getting it? And that is something which moves good students, and that is something through which they go ahead and leave such kind of questions. So the number of hours which are given to you also have an intent. The next is the negative marking that also has an objective. Be very clear about it. Negative marking was introduced after a lot of deliberation by the national law schools. Many of the national law schools were not at all interested in having a negative marking in such kind of a paper. But, when it comes to convincing, the law schools have their own answer. And they said that because a swarm of students is now coming, luck should not be a factor for them to get into a law school. On the other hand, let's rule out luck and let's find some real good students who have a very good decision-making ability and who will not go there and just do, say, akkar bakkar bambe bo and just get away. For which they introduced negative marking. And one of those questions or one of those analogies which they drew was, these are going to be students on whose advice, these are going to be students who are going to, on whose advice many students are going to, these are going to be those students. Okay guys, I'm again repeating, please do not, keep on popping questions here, because, that's quite disturbing me. So I said, I'll take up the questions, so please hold on. Okay, now, the one analogy with national law schools drew was very simple. These are those students on whose advice people are going to lose crores of rupees, some people are even going to lose their own life. So let's be clear that at this stage itself, find those students who, when decide even which question to be attempted, are very, very clear about which thing I know and which thing I cannot be know. You're getting it? So that decision making is something which is very, very important for students. You're getting it? And that is why this is basically an outline about this examination which you had to know before you even start preparing. Because as I said, each examination, if you appear for a CA, for a CA examination, the questions that appear here have an objective. If someone prepares for, say, a government examination to get into railways, they do ask you many questions about railways and how many zones are railways divided into. And, such kind of questions appear. Similarly, even in CLAT also, there is a specific kind of a philosophy or a jurisprudence which is followed by the examiners. I guess we are through with this part. So let's move ahead and get to the main topic of, today's session. That is legal aptitude, the parameters which are checked by the say national law schools when they prepare questions of legal aptitude. Now, legal aptitude is further divided into legal knowledge and also legal reasoning. They are both very, very different, and both have their own purpose behind it. Legal aptitude, on one hand, is all about understanding the entire system. When we specifically say legal knowledge, it is about understanding the legal system in India, which means the common law method. We'll discuss what is common law method. I have a specific slide for it, so I'll discuss that. But when we say legal knowledge, what does legal knowledge refer to as? Understanding the legal system of India, how it evolved, how a specific kind of a system that we are living in. Why are we? There is a big question which most of the laymen in India don't know, that why are we still following the questions? Why are we still following the system of Britishers? The Indian Penal Code. It was enacted during the Britishers era. Why are we still following the Indian Contract Act? So you have to know the reason that why are we following. You're getting me? That is legal knowledge. The common law method, the method in which me and you are surviving in India, is called as common law method. What is the meaning of the word common law method? You have to have a good understanding about the same. They also have a habit of at times asking the sociology behind these things, the philosophy behind these things, and they do expect. Some students feel that students who are from arts have an edge because such kind of things are asked. But believe me, these are very simple things which you can, even if you start preparing right from now, you'll easily be able to get a hold of these theories. The second, an idea about the constitution of the country and the rights and duties it has given to us. Believe me, it gives you an idea. When you prepare for for a CLAT. Throughout this years of preparation, I have been able to, see a major change in students. In the first month when they come and when they study with us, they have a major problem. They don't understand that how things work in our country. And believe me, these things have been taught to you. You remember the civics classes? I would say the boring civics classes that you had no interest, but you were just sitting because it was being taught. Believe me, those basic things were taught to you without any kind of reasoning behind it. The teacher used to come and just, okay, this is the legislature, this is judiciary, blah blah blah, khatam. Okay, but believe me, when you start preparing for that, you understand why do we have a constitution. You understand why do we have a judiciary? Why do we call it as an independent judiciary? Why do we have a prime minister? Then we understand that prime minister is nothing when he is inside the parliament or inside the Lok Sabha. He's just a member of parliament. The real boss inside the Lok Sabha is the speaker of the house. You getting it? So such kind of things have to be known by a student. This is what you call as legal knowledge. The Constitution of India, how the Constitution stands, what is the basic structure of the Constitution, and further your rights and duties. When it comes to rights and duties, there are many students who fail in understanding the difference between the rights and duties. They think that what is a duty is also a right. That is not how it is. The difference between the same and also awareness about these things is something which is very, very required when it comes to legal knowledge. Now, when it comes to legal reasoning, something which they are going to test is your skill of applying the legal principle to the hypothetical fact situation which they are going to weave and give it to you. When I say when they're going to weave and give it to you, believe me, the kind of hypothetical situations which national law schools make are going to bust you, they're going to test you on those things which is given in the second line. Knack of reading between the lines, controlling emotions, and finding the right recourse. You understand that? It's very simple. They'll give you a little reasoning principle, which is a principle of law. They'll give you a fact situation. And you see written over there on the wall, no parking. But you can see that a person has parked just in front of that. Now, what is the legal reasoning principle here? No parking. What is our emotional reasoning behind it? Because this person has parked, I'll also park it. You getting it? Because this person has parked his vehicle here, I'm also going to park it. Because if he has parked it, I also have the right to park it. You getting it? This is the emotional reasoning by us. While on the other hand, if you are someone who follows legal reasoning, he would talk to himself and say, no. No parking means this guy is committing a wrong, but I won't commit a wrong. Rather, I'll find a legal parking where the parking is allowed, and only then I'll take the parking. You getting it? See, now as we are discussing, it seems very easy to you. But the most important thing is to control your emotions and say and take a call. And believe me, we are very emotional. We were very emotional. We live in a country where, I would say Shah Rukh Khan is our best actor. Well, he's not a best actor. He's a great star. But we consider him as a best actor because he modes well. It touches your emotions and all. But we do not see reasoning. And that is why I said we are very emotional human beings. And that is exactly how it goes. But the key of solving legal reasoning problems is to control your emotions and just follow the legal reasoning principle. As I said, knack of reading between the lines, controlling emotions, and finding the right legal recourse as per the principle which is given above. Now here, I was referring to the ability to interpret the principle. We'll discuss this in a very clear manner in the coming slides. Be very clear that when we discuss these things, you're also taking notes so that the next time you sit and when we start reading something called as law of torts, you understand exactly what the faculty is telling you. You're getting it? Because when you're reading it, or when you're trying to decipher a legal principle, you exactly understand how to interpret it. So we're going to teach you in this session the same thing. But before we move on to legal reasoning, I want to discuss with you something which I promised you, which is called as legal knowledge. Now, legal knowledge, many students think that it's very difficult. Trust me, it is not. It is something which is not that difficult, but it is something which can be easily cracked if you have a thirst for knowing things about the country which we live in. So let's start with the most important fundas on which the legal reasoning, the subject foundation has been fixed. The first thing is common law method. When I said common law method, I don't know how many of you got a knack of it. That what am I referring to? When I said common law method, I was referring to the legal system of our country. There are two kinds of legal systems which are running all over the country. The first is called as civil law method. The second is called as common law method. We are a common law country. Why are we a common law country? Because there was a time when we were the colony of British. East India Company came in, acquired us. They committed certain, some things which literally created a big issue. And because it created a big issue, they were thrown out by the common law method itself. Remember, during the 1857 revolt, it was the East India Company which created the entire issue in India, which was a religious issue. By that time, the British had parliament in England. Getting it? Do you think the opposition there is going to keep silent? The ruling party was in big time trouble because that is the common law method, the law which comes from the commoners. And in that system, there was a huge hue and cry which was created by the opposition, where the opposition even asked the ruling party of Britain to resign because they said, you cannot govern over a colony called as India. You are incompetent to do it. And that was the reason why the British Parliament then convinced the opposition that you need not worry. A platoon which we are sending to Rangoon is being diverted off and now we are going to take over the India. And the moment India was taken over, it was a common law method which gave the power to the British Crown to pick up East India Company by its collar and throw it outside the country. But from that day, the common law method was launched in India or else introduced in India. From that day, it was common law method through which Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi became the barrister. It was common law method through which Jawaharlal Nehru became a barrister. It was common law method through which Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi fought against the Britishers by saying non-violence. You understand what is non-violence? Non-violence to a layman means following the principles of religion and not going against any kind of violence which will happen on you. On the other hand, common law method says this specific things are law. The specific thing about common law is what I have written there. Written word law is equal to law. That means in common law method, every law has to be written down. If it is not written down, it ceases to become a law. For example, what is theft is written down in Indian Penal Code. If a person commits an act which cannot qualify under that definition, it won't be called theft. You want an example? I can give you an example. It's very simple. a person who has already, paid an amount of money, gives his property to another person, prepaid, and says, please, this particular thing which you need to mend of mine, repair it and give it back to me. How much would it cost to me? The other person says, it would cost you 6,000 rupees. And this person gives it back to him and says, please repair it and I'll take it from you. He already paid for it. The next day when he goes, he could see that the property is fully functional and it is okay. He picks it up and he goes. Did he commit a theft? He did not commit a theft. Why? Because he has already paid for it. So there was no dishonest intention as per the IPC. And on the other hand, if he had not paid, see, it's his own property. He has given it to the person to repair. The property is fully functional. He has not paid for it. He picks up and he moves ahead. IPC says that what he has committed is called as a theft. Why does IPC say so? Because the written word of law, as it is defined as theft, says that the property in this case should be in the possession of the person. The word used there is possession and not ownership. So a person, as per IPC's written word of law, means a person can also commit a theft on his own property. You getting it? We will learn this more specifically when we'll do criminal law. But I'm giving you an idea about how common law functions. If there is a particular process, if there is a particular law, if there is a particular crime, it has to be written down. I'll give you another example. There is this crime in India which is not a crime. As per me, it should be considered as a crime, but we still do not have a law which designates it as a crime. What is a crime? The crime is called as cannibalism. Cannibalism means eating of human flesh. Right? So in case if a person has killed another person and the dead body is lying there, another person goes there. He did not kill him, but he chops off his flesh and starts eating. He did not commit the crime called as cannibalism, because cannibalism is not written down anywhere as a crime. On the other hand, he has committed a crime. You want to know what that crime is? That crime is called as destruction of evidence. So the moment the person killed another person, the person ceases to be a person. Now he is a body of evidence. You getting it? So this person, when he goes and starts doing chopping off flesh and starts eating, the law refers to it as that he committed homicide. No, he did not commit homicide. He did not commit homicide because the one who committed homicide was someone else. He killed him. He's already dead. That's a dead body. That's a piece of evidence on which this guy goes and starts chopping off everything and he's killing it. So we will rather call it as destruction of evidence because that dead body is evidence. It's high time that our parliament starts enacting law for cannibalism also, but somehow they are not taking any kind of interest. And that is common law method for you, because this evolved out of a process in England where Magna Carta was born. Because English, why could they govern over the entire world? Believe me, it was because of a system they were able to find. That particular system was so powerful in itself that it gave them enough vista. The citizens became so powerful that they could start exploring outside the territory. You're getting it? They went out. They found, say, something called as even United States of America. They tried to boss over them, but they could not. But then they came to Africa. They went to West Indies. They went to Indonesia. They came to India. They settled here. They created colonies because this setup, called as common law method, was so powerful that a common man in Britain was also very, very powerful. But if you read world history, you'll be able to find out that Russia saw a revolution. There are many things which happen. Okay? So that is how it goes. Now, rule of law, the most important principle under common law or else legal knowledge. When you read constitutional law, there is something which you have to be very, very specific about is rule of law. Rule of law was something which was propounded out of a lot of evolution of the legal system, because first when a system was governing us, it was called as rule of one. Then it came to rule of few, where religion took the center stage. Then came rule of many. Slowly, each and everything was happening in the country, around the world, but this system evolved out of a system where people started giving more and more value to a term called as vox populi. Vox populi means voice of the people. You getting it? It's a Latin terminology, vox populi. It means voice of the people. Now, if a king has to govern, he needs to understand that what his subjects want. Vox populi is VOX POPULI. It's not VAUX, it's VOX. It's very, very clear on one thing, that he needs to have the confidence of the people. Now, he started hearing the people, and that is how democracy was born. Now, the moment he started hearing the people, there were also representatives who started coming to the king. There was a fight between the representatives and the king. But slowly it was decided that vox populi matters and the representatives are more powerful than the king. And that is how, in England, if you have seen, it has a unwritten constitution. Their constitution is not written, because when Magna Carta came up, Magna Carta was the only written document which they had, and they did not want their king to be subjected to few written words. But still, they are following something which is called as protocols, conventions, and practices, etc. They are unwritten, but they are very much binding on everyone, because that's how it evolved. In some other class on general knowledge, what we'll do is we'll discuss the entire story, that how these things evolved. But common law method was something which came out of rule of law, because when the king started questioning every other mechanism which the people were deriving, he said, "Why am I? Why do you require me? When you already have these things." To which the people said, "Sir, we require you to govern over us, to keep a check and balance on each other. And more than that, let's have a system, or let's have something which will govern us all." So rule of law as a mechanism means that it is not a person, or it is not a group of persons who rather, it is going to be law, the legal. He read many texts, many sociological texts, and was then able to say that rule of law is always going to be better than a rule of a man, or else a rule of few, or rule of many. Because here, if you have written down certain things, tomorrow when things change, the system is not going to change. And let's make the system so flexible. Let's make the system so flexible that it is able to even dictate the terms on the people. You're getting it? So that is exactly how the system governs. Now, you have to understand the difference between the word constitution and constitutional law. So when you start reading legal knowledge, one of those things which you have to understand very clear is that you have to have a very good understanding about what do you mean by the term constitution and constitutional law. So as people are chatting insistently, what I'll do is I'll now ask you a question. What do you understand by the word constitution? I'm asking you the meaning of the word constitution. Yes, now I am expecting certain responses. Oh, no, perfect silence. There are so many questions which are being aired. Set of law that govern the country. I'm asking you all the meaning of the word constitution. Set of laws, supreme law of the country's constitution. Great. You're all sounding like, law students. Which constitute the country. Okay, there was someone who said exactly that what constitutes the country. Right? Constitution. If I ask you what is the constitution of your family, are you going to tell me that set of rules, etc., etc.? How are you going to refer to the constitution of your family? Very simple. You're going to say, okay, grandparents, if they're there, and then dad, mom, and in case mom is more powerful, how are you going to say? Mom, dad, and then who are you? If you're the youngest one in the family, who are you? You're the dabi kuchli janta of the family. Someone no one hears to. The lowest step. So that is how we are constituted. You're getting it? Simple. So if I ask you what do you mean by the word constitution, you have to say something that constitutes things. And if I ask you what is the constitution of the country, simply say it how we are constituted. The formation. Who is on the topmost? Who's below that? The order of precedence. How things are set up, who selects who, etc., etc. That is what you call as constitution. While on the other hand, if I ask you what is constitutional law, In this constitution, the dynamics which works between each other, what you're just referring to, is what you call as constitutional law. So you have to understand the difference between both. Article 1 to Article 32, you will find constitutional law. You getting it? Constitutional 1, Article 1 to Article 32, you will find a lot of constitutional law. Now, after Article 32, you'll find a lot of constitution happening there. That means there are articles specifically for the parliament, there are articles specifically for the president, and they are being constituted. UPSC is defined in the constitution. Why? Because they are a constituent element of the entire constitution. They do a very important function. They carry an examination through which the bureaucracy of this country is selected through a very ingenious examination. They select them and they place them with the ministers and the people who are sitting in the parliament to help themselves. You're getting it? That is exactly the setup of it. You're getting it? So that is called as constitution, while the dynamics through which we work is called as constitutional law. For example, rights, they are all constitutional law. You're getting it? We the people are the constituent element of the constitution. But the rights which we have is constitutional law. The DPSP which the parliament has is constitutional law. The directive principles of state policy through which the state makes policies. The directive principles. You're getting it? That is what is called as constitutional law. While on the other hand, how are we constituted is called as constitution. So before learning legal knowledge, you have to have a very good understanding about constitution. This is how we are constituted. Constitutional law. That means these power heads, which are written down, work on these set principles. You getting it? Now, independence of judiciary. Another very, very important thing which you have to be very okay, guys, if it is not clear at the end of the session, I have already told you that you have every right to ask me questions. You getting it? Hold on. Whatever doubts you have, please write them down in a piece of paper. And after the session, we are going to have ample lot of time. I'm not going to finish up the session unless until I don't get a, go ahead from you. So hear me loud and clear. If you have a question relating to Magna Carta, relating to the unwritten Constitution of England, we will discuss all that. Okay? So please hold on. Okay. Now, independence of judiciary. Now, this is something which is very, very important because we are living in a country where rule of law is there, where common law method is being followed, and one of the most important elements is independence of judiciary. That the judiciary has to be independent. This is basically, say operational through a system called as separation of power, where you might have seen to get into the judiciary, any Tom, Dick, or Harkishan cannot get into judiciary. You can be smart enough, you can be a favorite of the public, you can get into the legislature. There is no education qualification also. You can be very famous between the masses, and you can easily make your work way through into the legislature. Similarly, if you want to become the executive of the country, even that is possible. But can you just make your way through to the judiciary? No. So that is one of those features of the judiciary, that you have to be a literal person in the law of the land to be a part of the judiciary. Independence of judiciary, very, very important. When it comes to interpretation of the Constitution, something which we just referred to, the written word of the law, the power has been given only to the judiciary. So when there is a fight between the legislature and the people, when there is a fight between the legislature and the executive, there has to be independent agency which will sit through and decide the cases. Agreed? And is going to interpret the Constitution. It is not going to just say, because we think so, this is how the decision has to be. On the other hand, the judiciary is going to interpret the Constitution and say the Constitution says so. We heard both of you. It is the Constitution which says so, and nothing else. You getting it? Separation of powers and checks and balances. There is a separation of power between legislature, executive, and the judiciary, and you have to understand the separation of power. So when you talk about Constitution, and when you are referring to say judiciary, when you are referring to executive, when you are referring to a specific thing called as executive, something that you have to do is you have to understand that how their power is separate. For example, when it comes to lawmaking, it is only the legislature which can make the law. The judiciary cannot make the law. The judiciary is stopped to make a law. Okay? Judiciary can only decide on a law. The law which has been made, the moment a particular bill has been passed, it goes through the Lok Sabha, the Raj Sabha, the executive executes it, and when it is given away to when it becomes a law and it is executed, it is imposed on us, the people. We have all the right to take that law to the judiciary and ask the judiciary, is it constitutional? Because it is infringing our right, which is again given by the Constitution. But the separation of powers says the judiciary will have to look into the Constitution, interpret the Constitution, and then give an answer and say, yes, this is constitutional. If it is not constitutional, it will say, no, it is not constitutional. But whenever it says so, it also has to give reasons. We'll take a very simple example which just happened a few days back. The use of pellet guns in Kashmir, if you remember. No? It was at the parliament. The parliament devised that particular measure and said, let's control the mob in Kashmir. Do you think the people were silent? No, the people went to the judiciary. The people went to the judiciary and challenged it and said, what is happening? Our rights are being violated. The judiciary said, hold on, let us see what the Constitution says. So it was not, in few minutes that the case was decided. The judiciary heard both the parties, where the Home Ministry of India went and said, sir, the sovereignty of the country is at stake. The people there are our own people. With those people, we also have terrorists and people who are people who are coming from all over Pakistan. Now, if we do not deal with violence, or if we do not have at least this much measure, it is very important to control the people. And the judiciary asked them to come up with reports which shows that this is the only measure which is allowed. And then the Home Ministry was able to show the evidences that how the mob is very unruly. There was another argument which was said that why only pellet guns? To which they said, sir, if not pellet guns, we'll have to fire them with bullets, because such is the kind of a response from the crowd's end. And as we said, we also have people from Pakistan, infiltrators, who have come down and they are staging this particular issue, but we have innocents also. So rather than using bullets, this is the only measure which we can use. And that is how judiciary decided, okay, go ahead, but use them in a matter of with discretion. Okay, that is exactly how it happened. And that is exactly, the judiciary interpreted it. So that is exactly, but, the judiciary cannot go ahead and start making, laws with related to these things. Checks and balances, the judiciary keeps a check on the legislature. If any such law is made, the judiciary has all the right to, any law which is, any law as such made is being declared as null and void by the judiciary. If you remember, the case of Section 66A of IT Act. Section 66A of IT Act prohibited any one of you to do anything, Okay, guys, I understand that most of you have a problem with, the Kashmir issue, but hold on. You have to go by the law of the land. You cannot have your own emotions here. You're getting it? If the Supreme Court of India has decided on it, it has decided on it after a lot of deliberations and all, which I have told you. And in the constitutional law classes, we'll also understand that, how a particular law is interpreted. It's not a joke through which a judiciary conducts a judicial review process. Okay? So hold on. And as someone said, please do not do, do not do journalism and politics here. Let's discuss this. Now, in the Section 66A case, when the draconian law was made and was imposed upon us, if you remember, there was a law student, her name was Shreya Singh. She was the one who took the case to the court. And similarly, the court also had heard the legislature or else the government, and asked them to explain that how do you think this particular section is constitutional. They had to explain it. And it was explained with clarity. You getting it? That this is unconstitutional because of this. And what was this? It was very simple. The judiciary had to be satisfied that, sir, Under Article 19(1)(a), we have freedom of speech and expression, which is a fundamental right, which is more important. And Article 13 of the Constitution says that no law can be made in this country which is in violation of the constitutional rights. And that is how it was defeated. So what did judiciary do in this? It kept a check on the legislature. You getting it? So separation of powers, checks and balances, these are exactly the most tested and the most important fundas when it comes to your CLAT or else ALIT, your law entrance process. When it comes to legal knowledge, these are the most tested things which in different manners are asked to you. You getting it? So this is something which we will be studying in the coming classes. This is something which you have to understand. You getting it? People do ask me that, sir, articles, do we need to cram them up? My answer is Article 1 to 32, you should have a very idea about them because they are the most important articles. You getting it? Article 1 to Article 32, they are the most important. But the other sections, if they are in, say, in vogue, for example, Article 370 of the Constitution, if they are in vogue and if they are in current affairs, you should have an idea about the same also. For example, we also saw NJAC this year, National Judicial Appointment Commission. Which was the article which was connected to it? So, this can be, so they would ask you, when they say legal knowledge, they also refer to, say a specific, so something which we call as current affairs or current legal knowledge. You getting it? So this is in a nutshell which we can discuss about legal knowledge. Moving further, legal knowledge, as I said, then it's basically the knowledge about the existence, the purpose, and the working of these three power heads. So living in a country, when you're living under these three power heads, you have to have a very good understanding about how these three work. And not just about judicial. You're getting it? You have to have a very good understanding about executive. There are people who call our president as just a rubber stamp, but believe me, he also has certain powers. So when we say certain powers, you have to understand about the ordinance making powers of the executive, the legislative, how they function, why the Rajya Sabha is called as the upper house, what is the reason behind them being called as the upper house, why Lok Sabha, though the most powerful, is called as a lower house, why the term of prime minister is per se fixed, but it is something which is called as not fixed, because prime minister, yes, he holds the office, but any time he can lose the office also, because his particular office is something which is regulated by the term which the Lok Sabha or the ruling party in the Lok Sabha has. For example, if tomorrow Lok Sabha collapses, our prime minister is going to lose his seat. So these nitty-gritties, these small things, something which you can understand is something which you can understand through it. So that is exactly legal knowledge all about. So please don't consider it as a tough subject. If you have a knack, if you can find out these things, if you understand these specific things which we're going to understand in the coming sessions of our online sessions, legal knowledge is something which is very fun to learn, and you'll exactly get to know that how things move in our country. For example, there is something called as procedure established by law. A word which is usually used, which says that in our country, if the state wants to act anything, it can only act through a procedure established by law. When we say procedure established by law, it means it has to be written down. So the process of arrest also is conducted as per the procedure established by law. Which law? There is a law specifically made for it. This for arrest, which is Criminal Procedure Code. You getting it? Everything is written down. In fact, when a person is given death penalty, there is a process which is followed. Procedure established by law. So these are those things which you have to know. These are those, those interesting things which you have to read in legal knowledge. So please do not consider it as a very difficult subject or something where you have to sit down and cram up the articles and you have to say, "Yare baapre, yaad nahi ho raha." Please chill. It is one of those things which you'll enjoy reading a lot. You getting it? Moving on further. Legal reasoning. Now, legal reasoning, the one word which is very, very, very important is interpretation. Because legal reasoning, one subject, is based upon only one thing, and which we refer to as interpretation. What exactly is interpretation? It's written there. Interpretation refers to the task of drawing inferences from the collected facts after an analytical and an experimental study. So when we refer to experimental study or analytical study here, we are referring to the legal reasoning principles which are given to you. interpreting those principles and applying them on the facts is something which you have to do in legal reasoning. So your skill of interpretation has to be really, really good, for which your British English or else your Queen's English has to be real, real good. So you know when a comma has to be, marked, you know where apostrophe, what does the apostrophe means. Now, giving respect to those things is something which we call as the skill of interpretation. You should be able to interpret things in a very good manner. You should be able to understand the hidden meaning. You should be able to read between the lines. And that is exactly what you call as interpretation. You getting it? Now, interpreting, and believe me, if you think that interpretation is such an easy thing, believe me, interpreting legal principles is something which requires a lot of skill. Because even one of those words can make a lot of difference. For example, I've already told you about theft. Let me tell you about another crime. Another crime which we're going to refer to here is called as kidnapping. So let me give you all a hint. As per the Indian Penal Code and as per the interpretations of that particular section which defines kidnapping, all the girls who are attending this session, cannot be kidnapped. But all the boys attending this session, okay, guys, it's disturbing. I said, please write down your questions, and I'll explain it again. So control. Okay, let me again repeat. As per the interpretation of the section of IPC relating to kidnapping, the girls who are attending the session can be kidnapped, but the boys attending the session cannot be kidnapped. Why? Because if you read the section of IPC, it says girls below the age of 18 and boys below the age of 16 can only be kidnapped. Okay? That is the interpretation of it. Next, your parents can also kidnap you. Because the word used in the IPC's section or the principle of law is guardianship and not parenting. Okay? So it is not just parents, who have guardianship of yours. It can also be a coaching institute. Okay? If you are attending a coaching and your time is like say 6 to 8, your guardianship is with that particular coaching. And if your parents want to take you away from that coaching, they need to have a consent of that particular coaching. You remember during the school days, if you are attending the school, you would understand that if your parents are in the school, they will pick you up and go away. Yeah, if the holiday has been declared and you are free to go. But during the timing of the schooling, if you are required, your parent has to go and seek permission from the principal. You thought it to be a process, but believe me, it is a legal process. In case if your parent goes inside the school, picks you up without asking the principal, gets you out, what he has done is referred to as kidnapping. And the school can sue your dad for kidnapping. He can be criminally prosecuted for it. So what did we do? We did not understand it. But on the other hand, if we read the particular legal principle or the particular section of kidnapping in IPC, you'll get exactly the meaning which we just discussed. What are we doing? We are referring to a particular section and we are interpreting the meaning of that particular section. That is exactly what you have to do when you are solving legal reasoning questions. This is not a rocket science, believe me, students. Some of you are asking me about, grammar. Yes, grammar is a constituent element of it. That how the word is being referred to as. You're getting it? On the other hand, you have to know the meaning of the word also. As I said, you have to understand the meaning when it comes to theft about possession and ownership. Possession means you can be in a possession of a thing you are not owner of. Ownership means complete right over that property. So yes, grammar is important. With grammar, the meaning of the words are also important. So when you are interpreting a particular principle, you need to know the true meaning of it. A small example is given there. Let's check out that example and let's understand it. Whoever by deceiving any person dishonestly induces a person so deceived to deliver any property to any person commits cheating. Okay, that is how we usually read. But how should a law student read? Now that is how I'm going to read it. Whoever by deceiving any person. See a comma there, pause there and you have to understand deceiving any person. So it talks about deception. Dishonestly induces a person so deceived to deliver any property to any person comes cheating. So I understand it's about cheating. How do you interpret it? Now come to the next slide. Deception, causing someone to believe in something that is not true. That is exactly the real meaning of that particular word. Again, deception, causing someone to believe in something that is not true. Inducement, influencing or persuading someone to do something. Again, both these elements are given there, and plus delivery of property. These three things are something which you have interpreted out of this particular principle. Again, you are interpreting that principle through a tool, through what has been given there. You have to clearly mark one by one each thing. This is something, this is something, and this is something. Now, when you have these things in your mind, another thing which you have to do is, now when you are going to the principle, to the facts, the fact can be very humorous. You may have Gabbar Singh's name there, you may have Arvind Kejriwal's name there. You know, things can be there which can be very funny and which can be relative. But believe me, when you're reading that, that is exactly what what they do by pulling the strings of yours to make sure that you are induced to go out of the facts and think something emotional, think something which can be referred to as extra knowledge. Now that is something which you have to control. Now that is something which you have to control, and when you put the facts, something that you have to do is you have to read it. So you have to decode the facts. So you need not read the facts fully like a story. Rather, when you are reading the facts, you have to get into it. You have to read it like this, and you have to talk to yourself and say, okay, is there inducement which is happening here? Is there a kind of a deception? Yes, it has happened, but the property is not delivered. Okay, that means this is my answer. Are you getting it? That is how you solve legal reasoning principle. Not like you read the principle, you come to the fact, you find something interesting, you sit back and smile, and you're like, "Arey yaar, this is something which I read a few days back. Oh, this is the story of that particular movie which I had seen." Now, when you start doing these things, you know what happens? The clock is ticking. You have to again go back to the principle. You have to again do that kind of an interpretation thing which you'll do. Okay, this, aisa, theek hai. And then you come back, and then you read everything, and you're like, "Arey yaar," And believe me, if you keep on reading the questions, if you keep on reading the principle, you go to the facts, there is a 50% chance that you'll lose time, and you'll also lose your marks also. So what you have to do is you have to read it once, read the principle properly, come to the facts, search for the principle, and the moment there is a question, answer the question from the principle, not by the facts. And the moment you do it, believe me, you'll surely get an answer. And that answer is going to be, I would say, 95% correct. That is the success ratio of many of the students who do it. Moving further, the conceptual grid, which I want you all to have a good idea about before we start with the next sessions, which are going to probably come up. These are the conceptual grid, which is very, very important for a student of law, be he reading constitutional, be he reading legal knowledge, be he reading legal reasoning. These are these four things that are going to govern your life in the coming days. And if you become a lawyer, this is something which you're going to be referred to as. So let's go one by one. The first concept here is called as rights. So if I ask you what is rights, many of you would say those things which we have, which we are born with, etc., etc. Some of you would say right, which is not wrong. Some of you would say right, which is not left. But a law student, the moment he is asked what is right, his answer has to be something which is guaranteed by law. We live in a common law country. I told you everything is written down. So unless and until that right is not something which is given to you or guaranteed by law, it is not a right. It is not something which you can enjoy in this country. I can give you examples. Right? You have all those rights. Right to life, right to education, etc., etc. Now, if I ask you to name a right which you don't have, right to die. We were not born out of our choice. you know. But we cannot die by our choice, you know. So we don't have the choice either ways. The Constitution or the judge they're setting also agrees that people should have right to die. That is personal opinion. When it comes to interpreting the Constitution, he cannot give you something which is not written down or guaranteed by the law. You getting it? So right to euthanasia, as someone is saying, Bharat Gangwani is saying, right to euthanasia, you do not have a right to die. Many of the people, right to kill, Uma, we do have a right to kill. You know, when private defense. The moment someone is going to kill you, and killing him is the only last option which is available to you. You can go and kill that person. You getting it? So that right is also given to you. Things are written down, as I said. You know, so rights means something which is guaranteed by law. Right to information, we do not have right to information. But come Right to Information Act, now we have right to information. You getting it? So that is how it goes. So rights, like many of you might not be having a right to vote right now. You getting it? But on your 18th birthday, all of a sudden you're very happy because yes, now I have a right to vote. Why? Because that's how the law is written down. You getting it? That's how it goes. Now the second concept which we'll discuss here is duties. Now as rights are guaranteed by law, even duties are something which are prescribed by law. The law is going to tell you what is the duty, what can be prescribed, what are the prescribed duties, etc., etc. So when it comes to duties, following the traffic signals is one of our duty. Following the laws of the land is our duty. To pay the taxes is something which as a duty has been prescribed by us. So it is duties which we have to follow. So let me ask you a question. In case you're standing on a bus stop and you can see few hooligans are eve teasing a female, what is the duty given to you? What is the duty given to you? Would you just go there and start bashing them up? Typical filmy style. Is that a duty that is given to you? Can you do that? No, you will not do that. On the other hand, what would you do? You would try to protect her. How? You'll try to call up the police. You'll inform the police and you'll say there is a eve teasing which is happening here. And in case if they start, jumping the bridge and they're doing something really bad, that's exactly where you have a right to protect yourself. You can even use force. You getting it? These are the duties which are prescribed by law. We live in a country where the moment so you catch a thief. The moment you catch a thief, people will catch him. They'll tie him up and they'll inform the police. And by the time the police comes, people will play WWF with him. They'll start fighting with him. They'll give him tight slaps and everything. And by the time the police will come up and they'll arrest the person. But the first question that they'll ask you is, who hit him? And you would say, I have hit him. What will the police do? The police will also arrest you because that was not one of your duty. You have caught him, but you have no right to hit him because that person currently is just an accused. You getting it? He is just an accused. He is not someone who can be punished because the right to punish or the duty to punish him is with someone we call as a judge. God knows he might be an innocent person, because when the thief came, when the entire public was running behind him, he might be the person who was running in the front, and people might have just caught him, the people might have caught him and they thought ki yahi chor hai, isi ko maro, and people might have hit him. Poor thing, he might be he might not be the thief. So he is innocent. He is presumed to be innocent. Getting it? So you do not have that kind of a duty. Your duty ceases the moment the rights of the other party begins. So even the people who are accused have certain rights, right to be heard. Right? Okay. The next is, before we move on to the next, believe me, rights and duties, they travel parallelly. Wherever there is a right, there is a duty. Wherever there is a duty, there is a right. You getting it? Like us, you have a right to hear me. I have a duty to speak. You're getting it? This is how we are speaking to each other because that is rights and that is duty which we are following. Tomorrow you have to maintain them. That's a duty which you have, and they have a right to be maintained. And in case any one of you, if you are not following your duty, they have a right which they can enforce. But are we humans so good that the moment are we humans so good that the moment we are said, okay, this is the right, this is your duty, we'll say, okay, sir, we're going to follow it. Even the gods, when they made the religious text or whoever made the religious texts, even they had to give the humans carrot and sticks to make sure that they respect each other. So if you read any religious text, be it Bible, Quran, Gita, it all talks about these things. It basically speaks about specific things which are very, very, very important for us human beings. So if you read, any religious text, it talks about peace. It talks about people have rights, you have a duty to follow it and respect them. And in case if you do not, even the religious text impose something on you which is called as liability. So I'll tell you about how the Hindu religious text speaks. It's very simple. Hindu religious text speaks that if you live a life respecting the right of another people, and doing your duties, you'll be taken to the heaven. When you go to the heaven, you'll have good apsaras waiting for you. Aiye, baithiye, and that's how you will be treated in heaven. But on the other hand, if you do not fulfill your duties, what will happen to you? Yamraj ji will come with his Harley Davidson. He'll pick you up. He'll take you to the hell, and he's going to literally bhajiye ki tarah tumhe tal diya jayega, etc., etc. What were those religious texts, etc., were referring to? They were referring to these simple things, which further, when now we are living in a civil society, have been referred to as rights, duties, etc., etc. Similarly, between rights and duties also, we have something which is called as liability. And yes, liability cannot be imposed just like anything. It has to be imposed by law. Only then it has the force of law. Otherwise, can you impose the liability on anyone? Do you have the right to do that? For example, that now in our country for rape and murder, death penalty is given. So, you're just walking down a lane, and unfortunately, the first sight that you see is, a girl child has been just raped and murdered. You see a rope there, lying there. You pick up the rope, you tie up that person and give him death penalty. Can you just do it? You cannot do it, because liability as imposed by law is very different. You're getting it? Because there is a process. As I said, if you remember legal knowledge, I said there is a process of law which we have to follow. Sorry. And that is exactly what you're referring to. The liability is fixed by law. The liability is prefixed by law. For everything, it has been prefixed. For example, if you commit a theft, 6 years imprisonment, less than 6 years of imprisonment. That is how it says. So, can a judge be so arbitrary when he finds a case that the thief has committed a theft in a judge's residence? Can he say, "Acha, you have committed a theft on a judge's residence, I'm going to give you 12 years"? Can he do that? He cannot do that. For the simple reason, because liability is again fixed by law. It is prefixed. It is as it is given. And does the judiciary make the law? No, the judiciary doesn't make the law. The law is made by the legislature. The liabilities are fixed by the legislature. You getting it? So everything everything moves in this particular setup. You have rights. The other person has a duty. The moment he does not fulfill his duty, he infringes your right. You need not punish him. Who will punish him? The liability. The liability is imposed by the judiciary. You're getting it? And that is how this process takes place. So the next important in this conceptual grid, the concept which we have to understand is liberty. You understand? Liberty. That means something, when it is granted by law, you can even break a law and get away. Okay? Something, when the law gives it to you, you can break that particular law and you can get away. I'll give you an example. It's very simple. In murder, you might all have by now seen that particular case law which happened. The case has something like this: that the first thing that a person saw the moment he came out was his 7-year-old girl child being raped by a person. His instant reaction was he saw an axe beside it. He picked up the axe and chopped that person into 17 pieces. You getting it? The case went to the Supreme Court of India, and the Supreme Court of India gave him this liberty, because the Supreme Court of India said this was exactly what you call as grave and sudden provocation. The Supreme Court of India also went ahead and explained it. The Supreme Court of India said In this case, the person, the manner in which he committed the act, he chopped off that person into 17 pieces. Any human being would have done that. Why? Because it was grave and it was sudden, because he did it quickly. Supreme Court of India further explained that we would not have given him this particular defense had he picked up the axe and this person who was the rapist stood up and started running. This person ran behind him. He could not find him. And in the evening he finds him. And he goes ahead and kills him. It would not have been grave and sudden provocation. Because the word used here is grave and sudden provocation. And it is not grave or sudden provocation. It means the or and the and. That is how, as I said, English grammar, interpretation of legal principles. The word used here is grave and sudden provocation means both of them have to be necessary. It has to be grave and it has to be quick. It has to be sudden. You're getting it? But on the other hand, when he finds him in the evening, it was not sudden. You get it? Because sudden means when the incident happened, just then. But on the other hand, when this thing happened, if you would have seen, he found him in the evening. By that time, he should have taken recourse to the legal, he should have reported it to someone, etc., etc. That is how it goes. You get it? This is the conceptual grid of legal reasoning, and CLAT expects that you understand this particular, legal grid. Because if you look at it carefully, please sit back and look at it carefully. Don't you see a legal reasoning question here in front of you? Students, just take a look at it. Rights, duties, they are given in your principle. Facts also speaks about how rights and duties travel. You getting it? And then liability is something which comes as a question. They will ask you as a question. You getting it? Is the person liable? Is Ramesh liable? This is how exactly the question comes. You getting it? Now, when it comes to liberty, it might be given there, it might not be given there. It can be given as a principle above, it cannot be given as a principle above. But you have to think and you have to say, okay, in this case, this liberty will apply. Are you getting it? That is exactly how the legal reasoning, or that is exactly how law works. This is the grid which is going to govern your entire life the moment you say, I have become a law student. If you have seen a lawyer sitting in his office, a client would come with a plethora of facts. The client will come and fire him with facts. Believe me, when the client is speaking, the lawyer would sit there and he would just be hearing to those things, and he will be just going through that which rights of my client have been violated. What duties did the other person didn't do? What kind of a liability can I impose? And he'll keep asking them questions to see, can the other person take some liberty in the court of law? You getting it? This is exactly how it goes. And this is what is asked in your legal reasoning questions as well. Understand this, that when you are reading a principle, it will talk about rights and duties. Take any subject, say contract. What is contract all about? Contract is all about two people sitting together and exchanging rights and duties. I'll do this for you, you do this for me. And in case if you do not do this for me, I'll hold you liable. But if you have a liberty, you are not liable. Criminal law is all about these things. A person has a right, no crime should be committed upon him. The person who's a criminal also had a duty to follow his duty and not to infringe the right of the other person. Are you getting it? Now, in case if a person commits a crime, he's infringing the right of the other person. Who will impose liability in criminal cases? It is obviously the state, until he has some kind of a liberty. Okay? This is exactly how it goes. And tort law is exactly, it's entirely about these things. And that is why, before starting with tort classes from the next session, I wanted you to have an understanding about these four things. Okay? So these four things, please make sure that from today on, you see the reasoning question, these are the four things which you're going to have in your mind. You're going to think about these four things and you say, okay, this is the duty, the right, liability can be imposed, etc., etc. I hope it is clear to all of you, and that's the end of the session. But now is the time for you to ask me questions. So kindly start asking me questions, but that has to be one by one. You're getting it? And I'll answer to all your questions, and that is why by 12:25 we were able to wind up the session. The session is going to go till 1 o'clock, so all your questions are going to be answered. And as I said, this is not a goodbye, but a see you soon, because we're going to conduct this session regularly. And that link you can see there, nonsense.com, we can questions. This is something that you have to go ahead and register yourself. Okay, so I'm going to take up questions now. Okay. The first question is from Faraz. He is asking me, sir, I went through the mathematics questions given in SIS. I've been scoring somewhere between 8 to 11. How according to you? That's pretty good score. That's pretty good score because as I said, we feel is a good score for us. And if you're scoring something like this, that is something which is good. But try to increase in case if you're able to score something around 40, even that is not bad. But as of now, the score is a pretty good score. Now, how do we have to learn the legal principle? Yes, you have to have an understanding about legal principle because the moment someone says, the moment someone says that this is nuisance, you have to have an understanding about nuisance. If your English is good, you'll be easily be able to interpret those questions. But if your English is not good, you at least have to know, what does nuisance mean. You getting it? So you need not have to learn the principles. You have to understand it. Duties are prescribed by law. Does it mean that they are not justiciable? Duties are generally not justiciable. Some are justiciable, some are not justiciable. Because when your duties and when you are not following your duty, as I said, you will infringe the right of the person. You name one instance where you are not doing it. Even when you are not doing it and you are sleeping at your home, you might be infringing someone else's right. For example, in a contract, you had to fulfill the duty of conducting something and you are sleeping at your home. Right? So the law under that contract, you were bound to do it. For example, if I did not take the session, and I was sleeping at my home, I had a duty to do it. Right? So your rights are getting infringed. So, justiciable or not justiciable, duties are bound by rights. What is the difference between right and liberty? There are a lot of difference. Right is something which, something which is guaranteed by law. Liberty is something which is granted by law. Liberty gives you a right to go ahead and infringe other person's right. Again, so it's a kind of a right which is given by by the law, but in exceptional circumstances, as we had discussed, grave and sudden provocation. So that is a liberty through which you could have went ahead, you could have gone ahead and kill a person. Okay? Now, difference between liberty and liability it's very different. Liability is something which is imposed upon you by the law. You commit a theft, you have to go to the jail, and you have to live there like that. But you can escape liability through liberty. In case if you are able to prove that it was not a theft, there was no dishonest intention as such, what do you have is called as liberty. Okay? Sir, I had listened to your paper session and you said that CLAT always gives us surprises. What are the surprises? Every year there is some kind of surprise. I'll tell you what surprise is to you. We follow a system called a syllabus. You getting it? Now, from school life, the concept of following a syllabus is as such that if in case there is any one question which is out of syllabus, what can we do? We just get up and we start shouting, "Madam, syllabus se bahar aa gaya, madam," etc., etc. And she may come and she may substitute the question with another question. Can you do it in CLAT? Do you think it is possible in CLAT? Yes, people have moved the Supreme Court of India and done everything. But any student who expects that some kind of a surprise is going to come down, for example, if they say current affairs, if you give you a calendar also from this month to this month, study that month particularly, but please be very clear, you have to study static also. They have a fasting static. They would say the static of the current affairs. So such are the kind of surprises which I would always want a student to be prepared of. Thankfully, I have been asking the students and the students have been following, and those students who have followed literally came out and said, okay, this was something which came as a surprise, but we were prepared for it. For example, 4 reading comprehensions when NUJS made the paper was something we kind of not predicted, but we said that the English is going to be really good, and that year the student who literally worked hard in English was able to, not take it as a surprise. Yes, it was a surprise for him, but he had at least the guts to, gull up. Okay, now CLAT prep for 2017. Every site has different tips, obviously, because no human beings think alike. So there's bound to be different tips from different people. It's about you to take things which are important for you. So Shivrit, that's how life is. People will give you different, because people think differently. And if I ask you for a tip, you might have a different tip. You getting it? So follow what appeals to you more. You getting it? Okay. I wish to know if someone gets top 15 rank in mocks. So if you're getting top 15 rank in mock, it is good. You're really doing good. But one thing that you have to be very clear is you have to be consistent. because there is there is something called as complacency which usually comes in, because once the student is in the top 15, he starts thinking, hi, I'm ahead of everyone. But see, people, the students who are even attending the session, someone who's at 30 or someone who is at 40 or even at 300 will always want to get into this top 50. You getting it? And he would be vying to do anything for it, and one day will come when he'll come and unseat you. You getting it? So when you are in the top 15, something that you have to talk to yourself and say, if I'm in the top 15, I want to be the topper. And when I'm the topper, I want to be consistent. Okay? Please clear the concept of common law again. It's very simple, guys. Common law means the law which is made from the common. It means people will elect their representative. They'll send the people to the legislature when the law is made. So it is coming from the common people. You get it? Common. And when people are sending the representatives and such kind of a power is given, consistently. Okay? Please clear the concept of common law again. It's very simple, guys. Common law means the law which is made from the common. It means people will elect their representative. They'll send the people to the legislature when the law is made. So it is coming from the common people. You get it? Common. And when people are sending the representatives and such kind of a power is given to them, things are written down. You know, in common law, something which is very important is the law is written down. You know, I hope you're reading current affairs, and there are many ministers who are, from Britain, the members of parliament who are saying we need to follow the constitution of India because it has never collapsed. You getting it? So that is common law for you. Okay. Does legal studies have study pressure? Legal studies has no study pressure. It's one of those things which you enjoy a lot. Why would you enjoy a lot? It's very simple, because you're not reading any formulas, you're not framing up things, you're understanding human behavior and how humans in a particular given society are controlling it. Okay, why is killing the rapist in the evening not justified? Because you had time to cool down. You're getting it? As it is written down in IPC, it is called as grave and sudden provocation. It has to be both. Grave, you see your daughter getting raped, it is grave. Sudden, you did it quick. But in the evening, there was a time for you to cool down. By that time, that is what the law says. That is not my own feeling. That is how it is written down in IPC. The IPC says by evening the person should have cooled down and he should have gone to the police and reported the case. Agree? So it's basically, it's very psychological in nature, that anyone in that particular mood would have done that. That is how law speaks. Okay? CLAT prep strategy for 2017. We have already taken a session on it. I hope I think you were not there. It's very simple, guys. 2017, the paper is going to be made by CNLU Patna. So there are few predictions which we have, though people say that predictions are always sparse. But last year also, when Patiala was making the paper, we said that the English can be, the orthodox way of asking English. Similarly, this year also, we do think that the English is going to be, the Queen's English way, because if you know the state of Bihar, it still follows those, colonial ways of life. You go to any place, the English which they follow is not the yo kind of English which most of the people have. It is that pious kind of English which the Britishers used to follow. And in law, we think more of legal knowledge is going to be asked. More of questions from contractor are going to be there. Criminal law are going to be there. General studies, I'm not assuring you. static is excellent. So you can expect most very. So if you are reading you want to issue, and each person shall have the access to that law. Each person shall be protected by that law. For example, IPC. Any person commits a crime under IPC, everyone shall be taken through the same process. There won't be any special process for any person unless and until that process is defined somewhere. Again, for example, the President of India cannot be arrested when he is the President of India. The moment he ceases to be the President of India, you can go ahead and arrest him. How would he cease to be the President of India? You can impeach. Okay? So that is equal protection of law. Yet he would be taken before the law. That is equal protection of law. So you understand? Equality before law. Law will treat you equal. Equal protection of law. Each law of the land is going to equally protect everyone. Okay? That is how it goes. So the word protection is the key here. The liability imposed upon the rapist would be the same, though. Which case are we referring to? As in, the liability imposed upon the rapist would be the same, though, as in liability would depend upon the facts of the case. Because if he goes at, if you are referring to the which rapist are you referring to? No, because he is already dead. If you are referring to that case which I referred to. How to manage CLAT and boards? It's very simple. You have to have specific timings for CLAT studies and for board studies. So you have time till January. Starting from January, boards can take the driver's seat, and you can go ahead and prepare for the boards. But till January, you should also invest your time, a lot of your time, for CLAT preparation. After January, there is only one subject which you have to keep a tab on, and that one subject is called as current affairs, because that keeps on growing gradually. The rest of the subjects, because you only need to revise once you're done with your boards. So by December, January, you should be clear that all the static portion of the CLAT syllabus, which is logical reasoning, legal reasoning, your mathematics and English is